thank you so much for inviting me. I must say I'm so impressed by the venue and I'm not impressed by a picture of myself, but the beautiful poster of Tree, the t-shirts, the dinner, the poetry. Those poems were beautiful. You all should be commended. And I was amazed too at how well they'll fit with what I'm going to read tonight. I wanted to read first because I know Pearl is celebrating a launch. And if you know my poetry, you'll know that I delve into dark material, so I thought we should end on a celebratory note, so she's going to provide the celebration. I don't know, do you delve into dark material too, Pearl?
Yes.
No? Oh dear, okay. I'm going to read from new poems. I've never read them before, and some of these poems nobody's ever seen, so it'll be really great for me to sort of have a sense of them out loud as well. Just to give you a little bit of background, because I tend to write books that are all interconnected. Both of my parents died within 10 months of one another a couple of years ago, and I was with my father through the last 2 months of his dying at home. And the very last few days he wasn't able to communicate or speak, but he was still very much present. And so I played my Celtic harp at his bedside. And so the pieces that I played for him, I wanted to write a commemoration and a memory of him the same way the bards did with the harp in ancient times, through the pieces that I played. So some of these poems have the titles of pieces that I played on the harp, and I have a couple of poems that are actually about the harp as well, because probably a lot of you haven't seen a Celtic harp. They're the short ones with the leaders. So I'm going to start with a poem called Robin, and that was a piece of music. It was a Renaissance dance that I played for him. And this starts out describing something about the original harp that I had that was also ill at the time.
Nadine, move closer to the mic.
Okay, is that better? Okay, so I'll have to put it up here. The voice is richest just before it breaks, a luthier told me, cradling the cherry neck between his big hands. Stress along the harp soundboard, pressure of 36 strings on the pillar, too strong to defy physics forever. And this harp that I've held humming between my knees, that I've laid gently against my shoulder, whispering, floating, singing into my ear, is dying now. The neck only wood after all, leaning into its fateful twist. My father's voice on the phone yesterday, the luthier's words still vibrating in strings held close to my chest, and I felt my heart quiver. Cancer's shadow blooming in the lungs, liver, April foreshadowing a season of riotous growth, before an ugly chord progression, the scale eroding, vertebra by vertebra, organs shot through with dull rot. An organized silence as viscera give up his voice. In the night, I wake at 4 a.m. confused, as if answering a child's cry. Is it him? A weird light cracks the blinds. In the living room, the picture window emits snowlight, spinning and eddying, each branch and stone and roof lit by radiation, muffled with white against a sooty, rust-colored sky. Birdsong, strange birdsong, has lifted me from my bed. A robin in the branches of the dormant maple. Scanning, I find the only dark shape in this world tonight. How did it shake snow off its shoulders to sing that way, off time but dazzling, mixed up but flirting through scales, breaking chords, delicate ornamental trills, ascending, ascending, even as snow continues to fall. I can't pronounce this title. It's called Je m'enamore d'une air. And that's from a Catalan poet, and the words were put to music by Ariana Zavala, a Spanish harpist, but it's just, I'm playing with the concepts of her song. I have a little bit of quotations from the poem. I think you'll notice which ones they are. So this is my father much further on in his journey of illness. Illicit, the way he hides his hands when I notice the tremor. He's still in bed at noon, but tells me he's already had breakfast. He eats the cake I made for his final birthday, but quietly slips away to throw up. He has a dusting of my mother's ashes on his fingertips, even though he says he's over his grief. The sheets on his bed are a dark tangle, a puzzle to revisit, charged with emotion. I fell in love with fragrance, the fragrance of a young man, he says. I don't know what to say. When I ask him if he wants me to leave, his delirium is all kindness. He's a gentleman offering burnt potatoes from under his bed. His animal instinct makes him hide his weakness. I think of his body whenever I'm away in my own bed at night. I fell in love by night, to the moonlight I was prey. I noticed the shape of his pelvis, the bone structure of a young man, quickly revealed through his last summer. The way I'm troubled at 3 a.m., woken from a dream, I'm lying beside him, feeling the pain he won't express. If ever again I fall in love, let it be by the clear light of day. We retreat to his dark bedroom for the last days, curtains closed against the sun. The way I can read his mind. You've always hated this time of year. Me too. And although he's not strong enough to nod, I feel him nod. I'm going to read a harp poem now. The book's going to be divided into poems that are about the process of dying and accompanying someone through that process, and also about the harp, which is a very visceral instrument, and it's used a lot in palliative care because it has special qualities of vibration, and it also looks like a deconstructed body. So this is a little bit about that, and it's called Gut Strings. A tallowy smell close to the nose, intimate to fingertips, cheek. My head bent low to catch the warm whiff of body, yellowish old bones, sticky in summer heat. At the Science Museum, the living line up for hours to gain entry to body worlds. But what do I find? But my harp, deconstructed. Human bodies, plasticized, dissected, skin peeled back to reveal muscles, tendons, and ligaments I could pluck, sitting on my little stool, and draw this dissected man to me. Muscles are shades of teak, walnut-hued liver, cherry wood heart, the man in my harp, the harp in every man. But the harp's voice is only a reverberation of what was once alive. I love you, he said to the nurse he mistook for me. She told me this when he was sleeping, and all my life I've only ever heard this echo of his voice in hers. Are you crying yet? This one's called Delirium. Told you it was going to be dark. Comings and goings of all of us, lost keys and guests and food that's spoiled, and the goat is upside down above the roof and he can't find his keys and is somewhere to be, somewhere away from this prison. He doesn't know why he's in jail, the legs of the side table on either side of his head after he falls out of bed. They don't come, but you have the key, don't you? Don't leave without him. He has money in his wallet to pay you. Can you spirit me away? He asks, breaking your heart as you lift his bones from the floor. Comings and goings, they had their ways of leaving. Simple enough for her, through the piano, Moonlight dappling my Saturday morning bed, the pathétique, the sad passion of her alone in the living room, washes of empathy and stunning courage, savage heart bared through her hand's strength, pulling her own ribcage open, beating heart of her rhythms, the blurred roar of the piano bass shaking the moonlight on your bed into ripples. And then you woke to sunlight, the notes assuming their ancient patterns, repeated as long as people still care to play them, not forever, but long enough for her. So I'm going to move into a couple of poems about my mother's death, which happened very rapidly. It was under a week from the time she learned she had leukemia until she died. And it suited her, actually, perfectly to go that way. So this one is called Not Even Waving, Just Drowning. No goodbyes from Mom. No phone wanted in her room. My dad had not been well enough to drive her, so a neighbor did what neighbors do, brought her to the hospital. My mother coughed up blood, but we only knew later, after she died and I stripped her bed, these little November roses on her pillowcase, every rent in tissue evicting her with less than a week's notice. No requests for visits. The youngest grandchild took too much energy, my father oblivious to her fate. No long-lost daughter requested to reconcile with now that time was short. No advice. No grown grandchildren summoned a last time. She'd done this before alone, given birth on those distant sanitary wards, astringent with bleach, masked, her head lolling to the hiss of the gas canister, and was glad to be done with that too. Although we did come the last day she could speak, gowned and gloved to spare her our pathogens. Your eyes are alike, she said, looking at me, at my grown daughter. Just like yours. That's genetics. I was naked behind my drapings and mask, my eyes filling, my sadness the only part visible, the naked eye. A woman's word. I was with both my parents at the moment of their death, and I actually feel very privileged that I was. There's something very special about that time. It's very intimate, it's very mysterious. Whatever pettiness in the relationship is gone, it means nothing. And because I had such a difficult relationship with my parents, I think it was even more important for me. But this is something that happened a few hours before she died. This is called A Woman's Word. Her last word, no. Only that morning when I asked her if she was in pain. The brows her own still, drawn in to concentrate hard, but not on me. No. And I sit back, leave her to enter that shadowy space I can't follow. Although later, once everyone has gone and I'm dozing with her foot in my hand, she'll rush at me with strong pianist's hands around my neck, and I'll rise up gasping, long and harsh as my first breath after the noose was slipped from my windpipe to my brow and away, her heartbeat so distant that it might as well have been silenced, and was for me from that moment on. My dad, if you know my last book, my father is a major character in Two Hemispheres, which is a book about mental illness and the world of the well and the world of the sick and the world of the past and the present. He had bipolar, and with bipolar came suicide attempts and also alcoholism. So this poem is called Spirits, and I mean there to be the double meaning of alcohol. Rye was his spirit of choice. Before he became a spirit, he gave up spirits for good. I left out berries he would not touch, then glasses beaded with fresh cold. The way the scooped glacier of a blue salt lick pulls winter-burned deer out of the forest, or scraped mink skins pull the wolf, or the glittering line of sugar lures the ants. This is how the living trap the living before dispatching them to death. But my heart was pure, and he was distilling, a strange vapor lifting from his open mouth. Here is apple, here is grape, but nothing tempts him. Try pomegranate cut with sparkling water, then cocktail mixtures, elixirs he sniffed. Is this alcoholic? Before turning away. Who would have guessed he would doubt after chasing spirits all the years of my youth? He promised me proof, even as he turned away in a dream by some arcane system of symbols. Now, at his bedside, I sit, continuous still, as he cools and falls as night dew. How's my time? Trying to decide. Okay, I'm going to read one that captures more of his personality, and it's called Letting Go. And the last 3 days, it seemed that he was having a lot of trouble letting go, whereas my mother, she just vamoosed, and there is really something innate to how a person meets that time of life and what they need to do to get through it. And he didn't let go of a lot of things in life. So this poem is about a lot of the things that he didn't ever let go of. He won't let go. Moved his car through a car wash once in drive instead of neutral. Banging and racing through the storm, felt strips whipping the windshield, dryer bouncing off the hood of the car. And he complained that his car wasn't clean. The car wash was broken and they should get it fixed. The price for readmission was the attendant's laughter. Or right hand locked onto the lever in the cafeteria, one glass of milk became 2 as he grabbed another, then another, then another, 10 in all, before my mother broke the current and grabbed his arm. Just let go, she screamed at him. I know that anger. He was in my house once when I didn't want him near me for years, walked right through the unlocked door when I was ill, less than 100 pounds from grief at how he'd failed me. Get out, I told him, get off my couch. He slowly lifted his eyes. I'm still your father. Nothing can change that. Heart pounding, listening for his steps from the basement. I never saw him leave. Couldn't let go of the new snowblower either. The sight of green confetti thrown in the white air brought us to the door. He was being dragged on his back along the edge of the driveway as the blades chewed up the cedar hedge. Let go and it stops, we yelled in unison, but he couldn't take the anesthetic for the shock treatments either. Fought losing consciousness every time. Hated that rapid plunge into sleep even more than the current passing through his brain. What is this current that locks him into life? 4 suicide attempts, not enough to break its hold. I want to be asleep when it happens, he tells me, with a dubious expression. And I lie to him. You probably will be. Most people are. So this is what I say to him between songs when he's past words of his own. We're all fine. You left us well, taken care of. We're grown. You saw Mom through and she never had to be alone. Your parents have gone too. We'll be along in a while. Not too soon, but in a while. We'll remember you as a character. Your grandchildren will tell your grandchildren crazy stories. I remember the blue jacket your mother knit for you. An anchor, his last words. Yes, I forgot that light anchor in the pattern. You were a good father, always happy to see us. The rest doesn't matter, only that. You survived that awful illness. Bipolar didn't get you. What an accomplishment. You're not dead yet. An exhalation that could be a laugh. I hope it's a laugh. Last month I was in Catherine of Siena's house and saw a fresco of her first miracle floating up the stairs when she was 8 years old. I dreamt of you last night. You drifted down the stairs just like St. Catherine in your new blue pajamas and silently appeared in the family room where we were, and I helped you into your chair. You weren't speaking, like you were in the afterlife, but still with us. I don't say, let go, you can go, but instead, You're stuck in this old carcass, aren't you? And his mouth twitches up on one side, his last smile. Well, I have to do the death poem. I can't do all this without doing the death poem. Am I at 20 minutes? I am? Oh, okay. All right. Well, I guess I could end with the death poem. Okay. Or I could end with another poem. Why don't I? You can wait for the book. All right, I'm going to end with the last poem in this book, which was translated, selected, and new, and it's I guess it's called Afterwards, and it's a little bit about why I'm attracted to these dark subjects. I think that it's important to kind of engage with the things that are difficult in life to feel truly alive. So this is a poem that kind of sums all that up, but it's about sex. You hold a wine glass between two hands that still smell of sex. You lift it to your lips, and out of the pooling red rises a gray knot, a small spider trembling the ruby surface of the wine. You lower your finger to its pulse, and it clings to you like static, that reminder always there in the pelvic bowl of blood of how appetite can suddenly end. The wine is ruined for you now. But no, I want this glass, still blurred with your mouth, the small lines as unique as fingerprints. I want us to learn to bend with dark stained lips and leave our mark on one another. The taste of you, full-bodied in my mouth, made richer by this little twist of death crawling under my tongue. So thank you very much.